right. So I will call to order the June 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Ellettsville
Recording in progress.
Plan Commission. Since Pam, since you're the one I see, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Denise, can you do roll call, please?
Sure. David Drake,
Here.
Dan Swafford,
Here.
Terry Baker,
Here.
Don Calvert,
Here.
Sandra Hash,
Here.
Pamela Samples,
Here.
Pat Wesolowski.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from May 6th, 2021.
Can you table those, please?
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to table the approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Why are we tabling them?
I don't have them finished.
Oh, sorry. I move we table the minutes.
Second. Or, who was that that seconded?
I did once.
Okay. That sounded like Terry.
It was.
Okay, David Drake.
Yeah.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Are there any conflict of interest statements for this evening?
Yeah, I do not. I will abstain on anything that deals with 3888 West State Road 46.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, old business is a petition for a zoning map amendment to rezone 415 North Constable Drive from R1 single family residential to R3 multifamily residential. Kevin?
All right, sorry, forgot to unmute myself before I pulled my screen up. Okay, please forgive me. I did not have much time to prepare for today. So hopefully there's no mistakes. If there are, oops. Start off with 415, 421 North Constable Drive rezone. To two things that were brought up at the last hearing. One was concern about some stormwater, and two, another thing that was brought up was the road width, and I honestly don't remember who brought that up.
Kevin?
We did, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone waiting to be admitted. And I tried, but I'm not the host, so.
I have tried to admit her 15 times and nothing's happening.
Okay, excuse the interruption.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, as far as stormwater on site, our stormwater inspector looked at it. I mean, there were a few, I don't even want to call them low spots, but nothing that wouldn't be resolved in grading for a new structure. So he didn't see any issues with that. I did measure the road width to be about 15 feet. It varies a little bit between 14 and 16, which is wide enough to get around a car if need be. But I think as we've discussed already, it is a one-way street, so there shouldn't be much of an issue with that. Otherwise, I don't think anything else has changed. I don't have my list of who's here. I believe Mr. Landis is here if he has anything else to add to it. Otherwise, I will send this back to the Plan Commission.
Do you
Okay.
have a drawing of how big the structure will be on the lot?
I do not have that.
I do have a potential drawing that I could.
Do you have that ready to share?
That we
right.
looked at last time as well.
All right, go ahead and bring it up.
Sure. So what I have here is I just measured all of your minimum setback requirements by the code and came up with a maximum possible building envelope, which would be around 2,700 square feet. And that would still maintain all code setbacks and offer extra additional parking spaces than what would be required in the R3 zoning. And the only additional comment I have is that we looked at the stormwater out of an abundance of caution. My understanding is that this project meets all 5 of the criteria by which we judge should we approve this project or not. And I appreciate the extra time, and I hope that that was helpful for you all as well, just to look at that groundwater, which on a day like today and yesterday is definitely an important consideration.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Sandy?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the Plan Commission have any questions for either Kevin or Mr. Landis? Kevin, do we know? Oh, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I went up there and looked at the area, and I gotta say, I know what's happening, but I do not like the mixture. There was like single families living in homes, and then you had it mixed with the wanting to do this, and then you have a mixture with the older people living in there, and it's just like a big mixed up community. And I just think it looks congested.
That's a fair point. I anticipate that as Ellettsville grows, those empty lots that are north of Constable on Grant, it kind of dead ends over there, and there's 2 or 3 single family houses. I suspect, I don't have the means to do this currently. I could anticipate that though that 5 acres north of Constable and even those 3 single family ultimately will turn into multifamily, since that's what it's for. And we know that the population in Ellettsville continues to grow. That doesn't address the immediate concern for sure. And I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I don't, honestly, I don't think that one duplex on a vacant lot is really gonna affect things much one way or the other at this point. Just my opinion. Kevin, do we know who's trying to get in?
I don't know, and I don't see anyone trying to get in right now.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't someone who wanted to address this petition. But if they're not currently trying to get in, then there's not much we can do about it right at the moment. So any other questions from the Plan Commission?
Yeah, I've got a question, Terry Baker. Is R3 the only way we can go on this, or would R2 multifamily work for a duplex? Because R3 opens up so many doors.
A dupe, well, no, it would have to be R3 because otherwise we get into splitting the lot. And if we do that, it's not going to meet the minimum lot size we have now. So then it would end up going through the Board of Zoning Appeals, which isn't, I mean, it was either this or going through the Board of Zoning Appeals. Plus, it brings the rest of that property into compliance. I mean, it's a legal non-conforming, so it's not an issue, but going forward, it would make it a little cleaner.
Thank you.
I drove up there too. I've driven by it multiple times, and it's a one-way street, so it is pretty narrow. And the lot, when you just look at it empty, looks so small and so close. I would really like to see a single family rental go in there rather than a duplex, but that's me.
Well, and that's something you'll run into the same problem. It still doesn't meet the minimum lot size. So even if they did do a single family rental in there, it would either need to be rezoned or have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah, that Kevin and I spent a considerable amount of time several months ago looking through the code and looking through the requirements to figure out what's the best thing to do here, the best way to sort of move forward. And it did seem like R3, like you say, Kevin, makes it clean and streamlined.
So Kevin, to Terry's question, what could you actually, I mean, with the lot size that we have, even though it's R3, you really couldn't do that much there, could you, and still meet the requirements?
I think with the density, and I want to say the whole area is a half acre, you would be at maybe 8 units total you could fit on that lot. And currently there's 3. If they build 2 more, that'd put them at 5. So theoretically, you could have up to 8. But I don't know if that would even physically fit on that lot.
What's the current code? I thought it was 1/4 of an acre, which would only mean 2.
As far as,
If it was R1 is just 1/4 of an acre, right? For the minimum
minimum
lot
lot-
size.
minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet.
Is that close to 1/4 an acre or is that less?
That is less than 1/4 of an acre, but the way the current houses are situated on there, they wouldn't meet building setbacks, or the house further south wouldn't meet the setback or would be like right at the property line if they made that bottom part 10,000 square feet.
Okay, anybody else from the Plan Commission have questions or comments? Do we have anyone from the public, Kevin, that's actually on here other than Russ?
There's
We
another,
have
okay, never mind.
I was gonna say, we have a fair amount of people. If anyone from the public wants to speak when it is time for public comment, please, there's a raise hand function, or if you're on a video, raise your hand physically so I can see it, and we will try to get you in order. But as of now, I am not seeing anyone.
Okay. So, I mean, I think the issue last time was the drainage, and that has been addressed. So I don't know that we really had any other issues from the last time that we wanted to table this for. Does anyone have a motion?
And before you make a motion, I just want to remind you, this is going to be a recommendation to the town council, who will vote on the ordinance to rezone.
Well, let me ask you a question. This is Pat, Kevin. If we vote on it and it's not a vote to put it in, does it still go to the council?
Yeah, you can provide either a favorable, unfavorable, or a no recommendation to send to council. And essentially, the only difference would be is if for some reason the council didn't act on it and you made a favorable recommendation, then it would become, that would cause the rezoning to pass. If you gave it no recommendation or an unfavorable recommendation and council didn't act on it, then it would not pass. But I think more than likely the council will act on it, so we wouldn't run in either one of those. So this is just, you're sending your recommendation as a planning body, what you think is appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, like we talked about at the last meeting about this, we have a large number of multifamily bordering this to the east. that will probably even expand at some point. And we're talking about putting a duplex on one single lot here. So I mean, to me, that's a reasonable thing to do. So seeing no one else making a motion, I guess I will make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the council to rezone 415 North Constable Drive from R1 to R3. Case number PC 21-12.
Second.
Okay, that was Terry, second.
Yes.
Denise, would you do roll call, please?
David,
Before you do a roll call, is there anyone from the public that wants to speak on this?
Well, we asked that twice now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Were you asleep, Dan?
I guess so.
Okay, now Denise.
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
No,
Pamela Samples,
No.
Pat Wesolowski,
No.
motion carried.
Okay, so we made a favorable recommendation to the town council. So Mr. Landis, that's where you go next.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is new business. Final plat amendments for lots 68 and 69, 974 and 980 South Deer Run in Deer Run Section 9. Case number PC 21-15. Kevin?
All right. This is just a final plat amendment, which essentially would move the west lot line about 25 feet to the west. Allow a little more room for a new home to be built on lot 69. The surrounding lot 68 will be further subdivided at some point, but this will not have any effect on those lots other than taking 25 feet off one of them, but it won't cause any issues with those to be divided. Real quick, this on Deer Run is near the top of the hill, right before you get into Greenbrier Meadows, which is heavily under construction right now. And there's a large corner here. There's a little, that lot's actually the one right in front of here where my hand is, my mouse. This shows it a little better. You can see where the old lot line was here, and it'd be moved out to here. And the reason they're asking for that is they're having a little issues with the topography of lot 69. It was pretty rough and trying to get the house situated on there. That is pretty much all there is to this request. I
sorry.
didn't catch if the petitioner is here or not.
Okay, I
So-
guess that's a no.
The petitioner is Josh Lewis, and I didn't see his name listed. So I don't know that he's here, but in any event, you can still make a motion on this and I can answer any questions.
Have they started building the house on that lot?
They started building, not on that lot, there's a lot just beside it on Deer Run that they're building on right now.
So this is going to be on the other side of the road from
It's
the
gonna
one
be
that,
on it'll be on the west side of Deer Run. They haven't started building, they have started moving dirt.
Will this be the last lot there? On Deer Run?
This is one of the last parts to be subdivided. Across the street, we did a preliminary plat a couple months ago, and that will be about it for Deer Run.
When I said the other side of the street, I meant that little opening there between the lot that they want to change. Yes, that's a
Okay,
proposed
yeah,
roadway.
yeah, you're right.
And they will be subdividing then back there after that road's completed.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is that where they took all the trees out, Kevin?
Probably, yeah. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they took a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah.
Whoever buys that home better have something with their driveway, but my Lord, they're so steep. It's unbelievable.
Okay, did anyone from the Plan Commission have any questions or comments for Kevin? Kevin, is there anyone from the public showing up?
Looking, I don't see any hands raised on the Zoom feature. I can't, with my screen up, I can only see 4 people at a time, so I do not believe there's anyone.
Well, if there is anyone, unmute yourself and say hi quickly. Okay, I don't hear anybody. So would someone like to make a motion? Boy, nobody's in a motion and mood tonight, are they? So I will make a motion that we approve the final plat amendment for PC 21-15 in Deer Run.
I'll second that.
Denise?
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is development plan approval for a multifamily structure, 56 units at 4252 North Tupelo Drive. The petitioner is Rubicon Property Group and it's case number PC 21-14.
All right. I can't see my name on here. I'm hoping I'm not muted.
Nope, you're on.
All right, good deal. Okay, this case is for a development plan, not development plat. Sorry about that. For a 56-unit apartment building in the Cedar Bluff PUD. It's been reviewed by our tech review, which had, I think, no comments other than I asked for a tree to be relocated. So that went very smoothly. That's been updated on the landscape plan as well. So everything is good to go from a technical standpoint. It's been noticed by mail and in the Ellettsville Journal. Just briefly, there are 11 criteria for the Planning Commission to look at. You want to look at compatibility with surrounding land uses, compatibility with the comp plan, adequate provisions for internal traffic, the analysis of the capacity of adjacent streets to ensure that they can handle additional traffic, adequate provisions for public facilities and infrastructure, on-site management of stormwater and erosion control, provisions for the allocation of land for streets, parks, schools, and other public and semi-public buildings and uses as appropriate, provision for green space and or landscaping, provision for buffering from dissimilar developments, protection of existing limestone, and provision of pathways, trails, and or sidewalks for all non-industrial developments. And I addressed each of these in the staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions on those once I finish my part here. This location, gas station, the Circle S, in front. It kind of wraps up and behind and around along Spring Valley. And I will say there is a tree conservation easement on the eastern side of this property. So and you'll see it on the plans. So a lot of this will not be touched. This is just a close-up of the site plan showing where parking would be. 46 runs down here kind of diagonally. The road up here is Tupelo. Starbucks is right over here to the left of it. And the tree conservation easement is basically this almost triangle-like shape. Plus there's an additional tree buffer on the north side to buffer against the single family homes. Let's see if that have the floor plans. It's a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom plan or 3 bedroom units. Yeah, this is a landscape plan. It shows a little better the tree buffer along the north side and a number of existing trees and some new trees on the east side, along with other required landscaping. Since this is part of the Cedar Bluff PUD, it did have some landscape requirements and they have achieved all of those. And at this time, I can take any questions. I also believe that the developer, Michael Eaton, is on the meeting and he can speak to this as well.
Where is the water retention area on this map?
Let me go back up a little bit. The pond is, so you have, this is where the apartments would be, then Starbucks to the west of that, and to the west of that is the drainage, the pond.
Did anybody else from the council have any questions for Kevin?
Excuse me, this is Pat. How far will the apartments be from the houses in the back there that you're talking about?
There is a buffer. Let's see, let me look quickly on my plans. I don't know that off the top of my head. I want to say it's like a 25-foot buffer to the property line. I'm not sure how far back the houses sit in Spring Valley. But I would say it'll probably be, I want to say that's 25 feet.
I'm assuming that all these are having balconies.
Yes,
How many stories is it?
it is 3 stories.
Okay, any more questions for Kevin? How about questions for the developer? Or should we just let the developer present something for a couple of minutes and then see if we have questions?
Good idea.
Okay, would Mr. Eaton like to say anything? Kevin, is he there?
I saw his name earlier,
Yeah, I see it.
and now
Yeah,
I-
he's on here, Kevin.
okay. Oh, yeah, I see him.
You have to unmute him, or can he unmute himself?
I apologize because
not
I've been on
muted.
vacation this week and I haven't done a good job of reviewing the information. How many parking spots are there in the plan?
I believe 75 or 72.
And that meets our requirements or does it exceed them?
It It meets our requirements, and those are actually based on the PUD requirements, so they're a little different than ours.
Were they more or less?
I believe for apartments, they are less than ours, less than the towns.
Well,
And
how
it's
many
based
apartments?
off of bedrooms.
Okay, how many apartments did they
Sorry?
put in there by CVS? Do you remember?
I do not. It was, I want to say 16.
This is going to be quite a big one.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't see who all's there myself.
Well, Michael Eaton's on here, but it doesn't show that he's muted.
I see
Okay.
Rick Kopic on here. So did Bynum and Peña design this?
No, I think the plans were Smith Design Group,
Oh, okay.
I think.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My computer picked up on the wrong microphone.
Okay. Would you like to just say a few things and then see if anybody has any questions for you?
No, the only thing I was going to confirm was Kevin's right about the 25-foot buffer yard to the north, and then absolutely correct about the tree conservancy to the east side of the property. With this, obviously, we're developing the bridge to connect Tupelo over to North Cypress. As far as to Sandy's questions, is the 16 units were correct for the original Cedar Bluff apartments we found up there with our parking. We had an ample amount of parking for there. We feel like with this one, it'll be the same because you have a count of 1-bedroom units that obviously will have, cars parked there, but you'll have many 2-bedroom units that will only have a single car, not double cars. And you'll have the same with 3s, obviously, as you'll probably end up getting, 2 cars for a 3-bedroom unit, but you probably will not end up with 3 cars for that. So we feel like for hitting the PUD that was approved 14, there's ample parking there for that.
How many total parking places are there?
Believe right now 72, but we also have the availability on lot 3 to do easement parking over there as well.
Oh, I thought they said 75. I thought someone said 75.
I said 75 the first time. There's actually 72. I can't read my own writing some days.
All right. And would you refresh me how many 1-bedrooms?
We have 27 1-bedroom units, 24 2-bedroom units, and 5 3-bedroom units.
Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Eaton?
Yeah, I
Oh.
do.
Go ahead.
Are these just going to be rented to, I don't know how to say it, like just regular people, or is it going to be where you would do like low income people, like needing a place to live, or?
Section 8.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. I couldn't think of the word.
It'll be market rate, but right now we are really focusing on the workforce housing rates. There will be a market rate building.
What will be the cost on that per unit? I mean, if I want to go rent one?
They vary based upon the unit size, but anywhere from 1,100 a month up to 1,600 for something larger.
Kevin, at the review, did the fire department have any comments on the 3 levels? I know I've heard the police chief speak on that in the past. Not the police chief, the fire chief, sorry.
Fire chief, yeah. No, they did not have any comments, and I know they had training going on during that week, and I talked to Mike Corman beforehand, and he'd seen the plans, and I had never received any comments. So, and he's usually very good about getting anything to me that he has a concern about. So I'm assuming they're good with it.
What is that, about a 30-foot tall building? 3 stories?
I think it's 36.
Right.
This will be the biggest one we have other than Governor's Square, right?
Which one's Governor's Square?
Well, that's the senior citizens that's going in on the Lindsay Hayes
Oh,
property. I'm not sure how many units that was, but it was 3 stories.
That one is 90 units, 90 or 88. I can't remember which one. But yeah, this will probably be the second largest single building.
Is there going to be any commercial in this building at all?
No, we came back to planning, I believe in February, and removed the commercial component of this.
And I believe that the tree conservancy was due to, that's pretty wet area, correct? I remember.
Yeah, there's a low-lying area there, but we actually left the tree conservancy as part of the original PUD. It was just negotiated to keep more buffer area and buffer zone at that time. And then there is a sewer utility easement that runs through there as well.
Kevin, is there enough space between the houses and these apartments? Naturally, they're going to have air conditioners. Are the units going to be outside, or?
They'll be rooftop.
Is there going to be any play area for children? It looks pretty dense.
We are going to have an outdoor amenity space, correct?
Kevin, can you show me that on the plan?
it's to the east.
Yes.
That little square box there to the east of the farthest east buildings in the tree conservation area.
So right in this area here.
What will you provide in that area? Is it just going to be open space? You're going to have a shelter house, playground, what?
Correct. It will not have a playground. It'll have, some outdoor furniture, a little shelter area or pergola, if you will, just some space that people can get out, relax. These do have all their own individual, balconies. The target market for this is, working individuals, not student related. So IU Health, Baxter, Cook, those type of individuals.
How big are the patios or balconies?
I cannot give you that square footage off the top of my head. I'm sorry at this time.
Well, do you know, is it 2 lawn chairs or is it a table and 2 lawn chairs?
It would be a bistro table or 2 lawn chairs. They're not, huge balconies.
So it's basically just to step outside and maybe sit down if you want.
Correct.
Sandy, they're about 5.5 feet wide.
And how deep?
13 feet long and 5.5 feet wide. Or deep, I guess.
They're basically 5 by 12.
You mentioned earlier about some additional parking somewhere. How many extra spaces can you get with that spot you were talking about?
Well, that's kind of an odd question to answer, only because, I mean, we could put an easement for the entire lot, but you know, you're not going to want to do that because you have to service that parking for that area anyway. So you could easily go over there and pick up 5 to 10.
Okay, and how many total units again are there?
56.
56. So, I mean, just me, if you're looking at, you know, working people, it seems like it's going to be 2 cars per unit. So I'm a little concerned about the parking. Is there a place for overflow or?
Correct. That's what I was indicating on lot number 3.
But that's just an additional 5 spots, right?
Well, no, sir. It could be whatever, you know, you wanted it to be. It could be a blanket, you know, lot 1 has the right to use, you know, those spots. But what we're finding is what you anticipate for parking is there's less parking really needed than what we always think needs to be planned for.
Well, when they built the other apartments, you know, I really asked for some overflow parking, and I have to admit, I don't watch that all the time, but I have looked at it several times, and that overflow parking is at the entrance on to the townhouses, and it's always full every
Yes, it
time I've
is.
looked at it. So if everybody in this place, you know, had 2 people in them, and I've been married for a long time, I've always had my own vehicle, my husband's had his. So, you know, that's over 116 vehicles, possibly. I mean, you have that possibility. So 73 seems really low to me.
Yes, that's one of my big concerns is the parking, because in the past, we've seen where they haven't had the parking, they park out on the street and everything else, and that is something we do not want to see.
I agree. I mean, that's why I brought it back up. Is there any place that you can gain any additional parking?
Other than what has been mentioned for lot 3 in the current plan, no, unless, you know, you could go into the Conservancy or something like that. You know, the parking still does hit the PUD requirements from the original planning approval.
Right. And I think we had a concern about parking then too. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some garages that we counted or something in the original PUD. Wasn't that correct, Kevin?
Garage spaces do count as parking spaces. And I'll just real quick refresher on development plans. The Plan Commission did approve the number of parking spaces, I mean, the parking calculations that are being used, and they are being met. And Darla, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are obligated to approve things that do meet our codes, especially those that have been approved in the past 5-6 years.
Yes, that is correct.
But what was the PUD approved for? Was it approved for multi units, or was it for something else?
It was approved for, the commercial portion was mixed use, which prior to being amended accounted for apartments over commercial. The PUD was amended this year to allow apartments on the first floor. It didn't really change the amount of units that you could physically put on a lot, though. The parking calculations were not changed.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions of Kevin or Mr. Eaton about this?
I do for Kevin. Kevin, how is it with traffic? With that being like housing and then all those apartments and
That would have been approved by NDOT when they put the streets in. And I think, and this is something we'll probably hear about later, apartments are going to be a less intense driver of traffic than some commercial, such as Starbucks, which is right in front of it, or across from it, I guess. So from a traffic standpoint, this actually is not a bad use of the land.
Will
Plus,
this,
they will have access to both Tupelo and Cypress once everything's completed.
will this complete the Cedar Bluff area? Kevin or anybody?
Well, we didn't hear what you said, Pat.
I'm sorry. Will this complete all the building in that area then? There'll be no more
This
building?
lot, there's this lot and lot 3, which will be a multi-unit commercial building, and we already have approved the development plan for that. And maybe Mr. Eaton can speak to when that is planning on being constructed.
Yeah, so that is actually, it's a chicken and an egg with all this right now because, we have the bridge to put in as well. So I need to get approval for the apartments and then start, driving the bridge. And then probably, the apartments would start till this fall. The retail center will end up starting probably late July, and the bridge will end up, going with the retail center. So I'm really kind of looking at 3 different projects on this site.
Am I correct? That retail center was going to be, what, about four buildings put together, something like that?
It's 6 units, a single building, sir, 6 units altogether. And we already have some interest in the spaces now.
And that'll complete it then, Kevin?
Yes, those are this lot, the one we're looking at tonight, and the multi-unit commercial are the only lots that are undeveloped up there.
Okay.
The gentleman that's spoke, is he the builder or the developer?
Yes, both.
Did you do the townhouses and the apartments also?
We did.
Will this be as nice as that?
Yes, if not a touch nicer. I mean, this is masonry and metal panel. So it's really going to enhance and be a really nice look for the community. I think it will, nestle itself in there pretty well. And I think especially coming from the west and seeing it is going to be a very attractive building. Coming from the east, you're not going to see it so much. So.
Okay, any more questions from the Plan Commission? How about questions or comments from the public? See anybody, Kevin?
I'm looking, and I am not seeing any. Oh, so I see someone waving their hand around. Thomas Spoonmore, I believe.
Hello?
Hello. We can kind of hear you, yes.
Oh, hi. My name is Linda Summers, and I am a resident in Spring Valley. I live on Ashbrook, and this is the first time I have attended one of your meetings, and it's very interesting, and I'm really impressed with your questions, and particularly, the traffic and the cars and making sure they have enough parking. So I don't really have a question, except that from what I've gathered, just listening to you, that you don't have much input on what this is going to do to 46 with all of these developments going on. Is that correct?
Yes, if the State Highway Department says that it can handle the traffic, then we pretty much have to go with that.
You pretty much have to go with that?
Yes.
Okay, so you can have an opinion about it. And if you think it's going to create too much traffic, even if there's enough room to put in more apartments, you have the authority to stop that?
I'm not really quite sure I got that. Darla, would you like to, or Kevin, would you like to weigh in on that?
Sure. Well, I can try if I understand the question. This is a development plan petition. So under the law, if the development plan meets the town code, the plan commission has to approve the development plan. So if I understand your question, if the plan commission simply thinks that there's going to be too much traffic generated, that can't be a reason for denying the development plan unless there's something in the code specifically that the plan commission could point to, and so that the developer could go back and modify the plan to meet those requirements. So.
Thank you, Darla. That does answer my question. Thank you.
Hey, Darla, clarification on that. You said the town code, is that also including the PUD that we had already approved?
Yes.
Because some of the PUD doesn't go along with the town code, so, correct?
Well, the PUD is, as you are aware, it's a rezone. And so when it was rezoned as a PUD, there were certain conditions placed on that approval. And if the plan commission approves certain parking spots, I'm not sure you can change that right now. No.
So basically, doesn't the PUD become part of town code?
Correct.
Well, as a resident, I'm very affected trying to get out on Deer Park onto 46. I think we're all aware that it's becoming more dangerous. And now we've got even something as small as the storage unit. I mean, people do come in and out more now. And of course, now Starbucks. And then you just were okaying or about to okay, I think a 56 unit with Cedar Bluffs. And then next, I know on your agenda, there's 168 apartments. And I'm just adding all this up in my head. So I'm just wondering if you have any authority at all to help with the traffic on 46th Street. But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
David, Mr. Spoonmore would still like to speak.
Oh, okay. I thought that's who that was. Not that it was a Mr., but I just figured it was the name on the account. Kevin, can you turn him on or whatever it is you do?
Yeah, he's unmuted. He should be able to speak.
Okay, Mr. Spoonmore, we're ready for you. We're not getting anything.
He's trying.
Still trying?
He held up his finger for one moment and
He's muted.
he's trying to speak even when he's unmuted and we're not hearing him. So. Yep, he gave it, he doesn't know what's wrong sign.
Okay. Can you hold up a sign?
He's smiling. Never mind.
Okay, all right. So if we don't have any more questions or any public comment, would someone like to make a motion?
Hang on. This is Jennifer Gunderman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I live in Spring Valley on Deer Trail Court. So I live just east of the gas station. I just have a couple of questions. I have friends that live in the existing units. I know this is not really something that this group can answer, but they moved in. They each live, those friends live in 2-bedroom units. And in the since the beginning of this year, their rent, they were told that these units are now considered to be student housing, and their rent went up $300 a month. And none of them are students. They are all career folks in their 20s. That makes any difference. And so they're struggling to make their payment. So I just am kind of interested in listening to everybody comments and questions. I love it. I get where they're coming from, but I just would like to know how many, when I drive by there, I feel like a lot of those units are empty. I see a lot of windows that don't have curtains. So it's like, how many are empty right now? And is if this addition is needed at this point? That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. We don't really have any control over the prices, but Mr. Eden, would you like to address your occupancy levels possibly?
We no longer, we haven't owned those apartments for 2 years now. So I can't speak to Granite Student Living and how they manage that for the new owner at all, or their pricing structure.
Okay,
So
all right.
Rubicon sold those to someone else?
We did. Yep, all the townhomes have been conveyed and the apartment building has been conveyed as well.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion? All right, well, here we go again. I will make a motion that we approve PC 21-14, the development plan for 4252 North Tupelo Drive.
Second, Terry Baker.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Denise?
David Drake,
Yes?
Dan Swafford,
Yes, I would like to go on record, though, that I'm very concerned about the parking, but I have to vote yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes, I too have a concern about the parking.
Don Calvert,
Abstain.
Sandra Hash,
Well, it's with heavy heart that I vote yes.
Pamela San- Are you finished?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I interrupted you and I stopped. So Pamela Samples,
I want to go on record saying I too worry about the parking, and I do worry about the congestion on 46. Even though it was approved, I do see a lot of traffic, people pulling in and out everywhere. So that I'll go ahead, yes.
Pat Wesolowski,
I also have a problem with the parking, and I'll vote yes.
motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is a preliminary plat approval for 20 lots in the Ellis Ridge subdivision at 3888 West State Road 46, case number PC-21-02.
All right, here we go. This has been off and on the agenda several times this year. It's been modified from what you probably saw earlier. This is a request for the Ellis Ridge subdivision, which is located 3888 West State Road 46, kind of across from Smith Pike Plaza. What they have done is taken out the 2-family units and replaced those with single-family lots. Be a total of 14 single-family lots. 3 set aside for commercial, 1 lot for common area and retention area, and 2 for future multifamily, and that will be in the next case tonight. Parcel is zone C3, which was how it was zoned upon annexation in 2006. There was a house there, it's been knocked down. Subdivision request has been noticed by mail again and in the journal again, so those are up to date. Big thing, I have spoken with NDOT several times, and they are, I don't know that they've given or have approved their driveway permit, but have indicated that they will approve the driveway for the subdivision as it's shown in the plans now. Just kind of a overview of the entire plat. The commercial lots down here on the southern part. This middle part would be multifamily, and single family would wrap up around, and then Spring Valley on Ashbrook. Just a close up of the commercial lots. And those would be the multifamily, and this is most of the single family. And just a couple pictures of the site. I mean, it's a lot of empty ground right now, 17 plus acres. At this time, I would like to turn it over to the petitioner, and I didn't check who was on here. I believe Katie Stein may want to speak. I'm not sure if anyone else with the project is here or not.
Thank you, Kevin. Yes, this is Katie Stein. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Katie Stein. I am representing the petitioner, Kenny Blackwell. I am with Smith Design Group, and we are the civil engineers and land surveyors for this development. Kevin has done a good overview of this project. It is a 17.5 acre parcel. It is zoned, the entire parcel is zoned C3, which is the highest intensity commercial zone that is within the town of Ellettsville. We are proposing to subdivide this property into 20 lots. 14, like Kevin said, will be single family lots on the north side. We'll have 3 commercial lots on the south, adjacent to State Road 46. 2 lots in the middle are proposed, not with this petition, but they are proposed to be multifamily lots. And then we have 1 lot that is open area, common area, that is shown here on this screen. So the access to this development, all the roads within this development will be public. We are providing 2 points of ingress. One of them is at the north through Ashbrook Lane. The second point is on the south onto State Road 46. And like Kevin has mentioned, we have reached out to NDOT, and they have given us their verbal and written approval of this limited drive access that is shown here on these plans. Also, as a part of this development, we will have sidewalks on both sides of the road. So we will be providing pedestrian connectivity through this neighborhood. One of the things we would also like to mention, we've had a lot of traffic studies done, communication with NDOT by ANF engineers, traffic engineering up in Indianapolis. And the development that we're proposing here versus building this outright by right, this plan here is reducing what could potentially be a significant increase to the State Road 46, and roughly by 60% decreasing what could potentially go there from a traffic standpoint. So, you know, we consider this more of a down zoning of this, considering this whole parcel is zoned that high intensity C3 commercial. Utilities that are going to go in, we will be extending public utilities. We will have sewer, water, electric, communications, possibly gas to serve this entire neighborhood. Stormwater, we will also have stormwater inlets throughout. We have 3 detention ponds that are proposed in this neighborhood. One will be right where Kevin's mouse is on this plan. There is an easement there on that first commercial lot that will be one of the detention ponds that will serve this community. The other will be, the other 2, excuse me, will be up on the north end on the common area open space. And this will provide water quality, and then it will also control the release rate of stormwater due to development from this site. So that is the end of my presentation on here. I also have with me is Kenny Blackwell. He is with Blackwell Development, or excuse me, Blackwell Contractors. They are the developers and the owner of this lot. And then we also have his legal counsel, Greg Lauer, here as well. And we are open to questions at this time. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Kevin, I have a question for you. I'm still a little bit confused about the 2 different approvals. So with the first one, with PC 21-02, that does not include any apartments. Is that correct?
Correct. This approval right here would just subdivide the lots.
Okay.
Now, the apartments would not be permitted until the PUD or something else is approved. But yeah, this would just split the
Because
lot.
I don't have an issue with this part of the proposal, but I have some real issues with putting 2 big apartment complex buildings up without the access to Centennial that I think we've got to have with that many new apartments. So does anybody have any questions for Kevin or the petitioner?
Where will be the entrance off of 46? It'll be closer to the stoplight, or going to close to Deer Run, or what? Not Deer Run, but the other Deer. Where's the entrance going to be at? That the state gave you the okay.
But right in the middle of the.
Yeah, the entrance onto State Road 46 will be at the middle of this property. So there's an existing residential driveway there now. This will be shifted to the left, west, so we'll be a little bit further away from the traffic signal at Smith Road and 46, but not much. I mean, it's right in the due center of this property.
And NDOT allows right and left turns out of there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
NDOT will allow right and left turns out of that new drive onto 46?
No, it will be a right in, and it will be a right out and a left in. So you will not be able to turn left onto 46 from this development as it stands right now.
How will that work?
How would that, yeah.
My question is, if it's a right in and a left out, what designates it? There's going to be some type of a barrier there?
Yes, there'll be a directional island that will control the traffic coming out so that they cannot turn left. That is correct. All through NDOT approval. NDOT has to approve all of that design.
And how far back does that go north?
Not very far. I mean, just to the limits of the intersection. So I would say at least 12 feet back.
It'll be very much like CVS has at the entrance on New Valley Road.
I just wish it was farther than 12 foot. That's not even a car.
This is Ron Rosemar. I live on North Rendell Lane, so I live very close to that area. And I sent some emails to Kevin. If they don't get a road to Centennial, which goes to the light at the Speedway, I'm concerned with that area. think it was a month ago. When this was
We can't hear you. Your cell phone reception is terrible.
David, have you opened up public comment yet?
No.
Okay, thank you. Can we please hold off on public comments and I will call on you. I see a couple hands up already.
Okay, so we were at Plan Commission questions for Kevin or the petitioner.
Well, I'd just like to see a larger than 12 feet going back there. That's not even a car length for the right in and right out. Or
I'm not really sure how you could. I mean, if the section is only wide enough for one car at the intersection, it wouldn't really matter how many people were back behind that, would it? I mean, if only one car can get through there.
Yeah, but you're talking at the busy time, but on a non-busy time, when everybody's working, there might be only, so I pull up there and I go say, well, you know what, I'll turn out the other way because there's nobody in front of me.
Okay, I see.
I think, and Katie may be able to correct me on this, I think there are NDOT standards for what would constitute that island separating the turn in, turn out.
Yes, exactly. All of this will need to be reviewed by NDOT to make sure that it meets their standards. So yes, it will be similar to the CVS drive, but again, it's ultimately up to NDOT's decision how wide and how long that island separation needs to be.
Yeah, we would have to count on our very efficient police department to monitor that. You know, I mean, I've pulled over several people who tried to do that at the CVS entrance. Any more questions?
What kind of material are they going to use for the blacktopping of the roads and stuff in there? Are they going to use pervious?
It's going to be standard asphalt pavement, hot mix asphalt.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just make sure I still understand this, Kevin. So if we approve this petition under PC 21-02, what could go in the big lots at this point by right?
By right, anything permitted in a C3 district, which could be gas stations, restaurants, Kroger, Meijer, Walmart, or some smaller offices, single family homes are permitted by right. I mean, it's.
But apartments are no longer permitted by right in a C3 zone.
Correct.
Okay.
I would like to say that I was on the Plan Commission when this property was rezoned, and I was the sole vote no. So I have definitely got feelings about everything. The traffic is already bad. And so I'm just saying.
Is there an easement to Centennial Drive from this property?
Depends on who you ask.
I'm asking you.
I don't have any legal say so. I think there is, but others have said no. That is being sorted out though.
And we thought there was one on the end of Centennial Drive when we approved that annexation. So, you know.
Is there not an empty lot between this development and Centennial Drive?
There is, it's actually more like a ditch than anything else with a bunch of trees on it.
I thought when I had a person look that up, Harrington owns it or did own it. Do you know who owns it now by any chance?
According to what I looked up, it didn't belong to anyone. I mean, it was like a common area. It was between lots. But it's been a while since I looked at it.
Oh, excuse me, it's Rick Kopic. Their plan shows a connection to that area that connects to Centennial, but there's been, you're well aware of the lawsuits that have come out of that, but there is a area that's not a platted lot between the two. Yeah. And if you look on their plan, they're connected to it. They show a connection to it, but they don't show a road going to it. They leave it there for whatever happens.
Is that area owned by the property owner that has the adjacent lot, or is it owned by Kreider?
Well, it's kind of up in the air. I think that's what all the court case has been about, who owns that property, but it's not part of those properties.
So is there any timeline on when this will go to court, or has it been to court? Darla, do you know when this will be concluded, or? I know I'm asking tough questions. Go ahead, Rick, sorry.
Oh, I was just telling Darla she's muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know anything, unless I've got your lots mixed up. I don't know anything about that particular lot. I just know about the 50-foot right of way there on Centennial that connects Centennial, or will connect Centennial Park with Highland Park. So if you're talking about a different area, I don't know about any lawsuits with regard to that particular lot that you're talking about. I don't know the status.
The
I don't
GIS
think there's been anything.
Yeah, no, the GIS shows there again. The GIS showed the other two, but the GIS shows a roadway between 4341 North Centennial and 4333 North Centennial, where Ashbrook would match up.
If it's not a clearly defined paved stub, do not count on it.
So is the petitioner counting on this, or where does the petitioner stand with this, I guess, is my question.
This is Greg Lauer, attorney for the petitioner. The petitioner also would like to see this at some point in the future as far as connectivity, but the petitioner does not own this property. And it is not a piece of property that we can get title insurance insured over this. This is a piece of property that is either owned by Kreider or one of the two lot owners that are adjacent to that. It's also probably something that the county has better legal standing to pursue than what the petitioner does. But as it stands with what is being requested by the petitioner on this 20-lot subdivision, we have 2 points of ingress egress, and I believe as indicated earlier, that does in fact meet any applicable code, town or otherwise, for approval.
I understand that, Greg, but I was just curious if the petitioner is seeking the Centennial Drive egress.
Dan, that is correct. Petitioner has contacted Kreider, has inquired about this ingress egress, but we do not have a definitive answer at this point as to what they're ultimately going to decide.
I can give you a pretty good idea.
Yes, I do too.
I can too, and that's why I'm just asking Greg, are they willing to keep pursuing this, or is it just you're not going to get it, so we're done with it? Or can you even tell me that?
And I tell you that we would prefer to have that versus not having it. But I don't think we're in a position where we can wait around until Kreider's group makes a decision one way or the other. But yes, it does make our property more marketable from the standpoint of having that additional ingress egress. We're not through with it. I just don't think we're going to get anywhere in the near future. I think it's going to depend on that Highland Estates project being built out, or Highland Park.
Okay, thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Will there be opening a area open to where if some way that does work out, you get access to it? Will there be a lot area open to, you could actually stub into a drive to go through there if they go ahead and agree to it?
Yes. Yes, sir. You will see on that plan that there's actually a right of way drawn in on that plan, our plan, petitioner's plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, Terry, I pulled it up real quick. I took the plans down so I could see the screen, but there is, oops, went right by it. There is a stop right there that would connect directly to where there may or may not be a right of way.
Okay, thank you.
So what the petitioner is telling us is that Kreider does own that lot?
He claims he owns it.
Careful, Kevin.
Okay, so at this point, it seems like that Centennial Drive connection is unclear. So does anybody have any other questions for the petitioner or for Kevin?
Real quick, David, could I add one thing? And
no.
Katie,
Yeah, go ahead.
Katie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we discussed that in approving the subdivision, you would like to have it phased where the first phase would only be for the single family lots and the later would come hopefully with better access.
Did you? Who did you direct that question to?
The petitioner.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the phasing may have been just in discussion earlier, just when we were still kind of trying to figure out the whole access thing. But I believe now I'm confirming with the developer that this will be built out all in one phase. Is that, am I saying that right? Yes.
Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I think I heard in the beginning was that they can develop this entire parcel by right as C3 if they choose to do so.
Correct.
So,
and
but do we have to make the connections by right? In other words, do we have to connect Ashbrook Lane to this immediately? If are we required to do that, or is that up to us at this point?
Generally, that would be the developer that would make those connections.
Right. No, but I mean, are we required to allow those connections? I mean, let's just say this was all going to be C3. I really don't think I would like an entire C3 development to hook up to a residential street that already is overtaxed.
Okay, I understand you now.
By that, David, do you mean that back street?
Ashbrook, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, once we approve this, it would allow them to make the connections. I don't think the town would have any way of stopping them. My thought with the phasing, and Darla, please correct me if I'm wrong, the Plan Commission does have some authority to condition their approval, where you could condition it to where they could only final plat single family lots until further connections are made traffic wise, or a stoplight is put in somewhere, or, you know, anything like that?
Well, that would be wise.
I think that's correct, under 3674-1015.
Can you paraphrase that for us, Darla?
Well, I'm Well, so let me make sure I understand Kevin's question. So are you thinking about making the phasing like part of a commitment to be agreed to by the developer?
I mean, one way of going about it, I thought there was something in the subdivision, in the state Indiana code for subdivisions, that the planning commission had the authority to put conditions on it as they saw fit and were relevant.
Well, the code section I'm looking at discusses requiring the owner of real property to make a commitment as a condition to primary approval of a proposed subdivision plat or development plan.
And the part I was thinking about, I believe, is in the 700 series.
Okay. Do you want to take a break and let me look it up? Because the honest answer is I don't know, but I'm happy if the plan commission wants to take a break, I will go look.
I move we adjourn for 5 minutes while Darla looks this up.
Give me 10.
I move 10 minutes.
Second.
All those, we can't do that, can we? Denise?
Okay, so Dan made the motion
Yes.
and who seconded?
Carrie?
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
And let's remember that and for those of you listening, yes, we still know we have to get to public comment. We're not there yet. And we will be back in 10 minutes. All right, well, I think we've had our 10 minutes, so let's call this meeting back to order. First off, we're still on questions for
Wow.
We're still on questions for Kevin or the petitioner, but I would just like to clarify that I'm not against development in this location. It's just a very complicated, very unique piece of land here that has a lot of issues. So we want to make sure that we're not making things worse. So anyway, does anybody else from the council have any questions for Kevin or the petitioner?
I'm just concerned if Darla found an answer for us.
The code section that Kevin may be referring to is Indiana Code 36-7-4-702D, which states, as a condition of primary approval of a plat, the commission or committee may specify: 1, the manner in which the public ways shall be laid out, graded, and improved, which may be what Kevin was referring to. 2, a provision for water, sewage, or other utility services. 3, a provision for lot size, number, and location. 4, a provision for drainage design. And 5, a provision for other services as specified in the subdivision control ordinance. So that's the closest I could find, and I went through the whole entire 700 series during this. during the break. So if there's something else out there other than that, I didn't see it.
No, you're right, Darla. I went back and looked at that again, and I think I thought the Plan Commission had a little more leeway in that section, but I think you were right the first time in, what was it, 3674-1015 about
the
commitments.
commitment.
So that brings up another question that I have before we sit here and argue about roads and traffic and apartments all night long. Exactly what are we obligated to approve by law?
Well, like with the development plan, if the preliminary plat meets all the requirements of the code by case law, the Plan Commission is obligated to approve it. If the Plan Commission is not inclined to approve it, then when you deny it, you have to list specifically to sections of the code, of the town code, that you believe are not being complied with, so that the developer has a chance to circle back around and modify the plat proposal to meet the town code.
Yeah, I think, haven't we been there, done that before?
Yeah.
So Kevin, what if anything about this preliminary plat does not meet the town code, or is there a question as to whether it meets the town code?
I believe that it does, but I'm trying to double check, something else just popped into my head. With the number of units proposed for the apartments, and I know this is not maybe directly related, but indirectly related, I think they may have to have a different access based on that number. But as far as the subdivision itself with just the lots, as far as I can tell, everything that's been presented does meet our code.
Okay. Well, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. So does anybody else have any questions for Kevin or the petitioner before we go to any public comment that might be out there?
Right now, we just are going to approve the 14 single-family lots and the subdivision of the property. So this vote will have nothing to do with the future plans for the apartments, right?
It would approve the lots for the apartments. The vote would not allow the apartments on there by right, but it would create all 20 lots.
Right. Okay, so Kevin, can you see if there's anybody there that wants to speak?
Ron Rosemeyer is back on. I know he was trying to speak earlier. And we'll start with him. I'll see who else raises their hand or otherwise tries to get attention.
Sorry, I didn't realize. Can you all hear me okay?
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Ron Rosemeyer. I live on North Rendell Lane. Sorry, I didn't realize we weren't supposed to talk then. We're headed to Columbus, Indiana, and I knew I was getting out of coverage. So this first one I've attended. So sorry about that.
Yeah, we have problems with this Zoom stuff too. So
yeah, but anyway, my biggest concern, I heard the traffic study that NDOT approved was done while COVID was going on, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I'd have concerns if that's the case because traffic was greatly reduced. My biggest concern in all of this is the accidents coming out of my neighborhood and the road that connects to it and the road that goes to 46. So my whole concern is just accidents and access to the area, whichever makes it better or worse. I'd think that if it goes over to Centennial that has that lighted speedway, that would maybe even help alleviate some traffic concerns for a bigger area than even this. But that's just my overarching concern, and I'll just throw that out there.
All right, thank you.
All right, next, the Kay Shipley.
Hi there. Sorry, I couldn't get it to unmute. My name is Kim Evans, and I live on Ridgemore Court in Spring Valley. I'm just off of Ashbrook. I'm on actually the ingress to Woodgate. So my husband and I have great concerns about the increased traffic. We are the pass-through, the cut-through for Woodgate. People come directly off of 46 who live in Woodgate and have to cut through by our house. It's like a racetrack. People drive too fast. There's kids here. There's animals. And now we're talking about having another access on Ashbrook, which is right around the corner from us. It sounds like it's a done deal is kind of what I'm thinking. It sounds like if the plans meet everything that the town requires, you know, that you all really can't vote it down. I mean, am I hearing that right? So I guess my concern is, you know, is there anything that we can do as, you know, residents of this pretty quiet residential area to stop this from accessing on Ashbrook? And I'm not worried about 14 residences, but I'm very concerned about commercial property. I'm concerned about 100 and some apartments. I mean, you all talked earlier about apartment complexes, 2 people per apartment and 2 cars, and that's a lot of traffic, a lot of traffic. I wonder, why did NDOT not approve the left out onto 46?
Well, I'm sure they figure they've got enough, way too many points of difficulty already. And once they redid 46, then they started really restricting the access points. If this hadn't been a completely separate platted area, they probably wouldn't have even allowed them to have an access. But since they had to let them have one, since they already had one, but they don't have to let them have a left turnout, if that makes any sense at all. I mean, they're trying to cut down on the number of left turns out because, as you know, it doesn't work out very well.
Exactly. Mr. Rosemeyer had a good point about the number of accidents. And I just wonder, you mentioned that there may be a proposal or somewhere down the line a stoplight. Why can't that happen now?
No, there would never, I can't imagine there ever being a stoplight here. It's too close to the one at Centennial. They might possibly put one someday along in the future at Deer Park Drive, but I can't imagine that they would put one at the entrance to this this area.
Excuse me, Dave. Her time's up.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and I forgot to mention that our time is 3 minutes, but we're concerned about the traffic too. There's only so much that we can do. Kevin, next person.
All right. Next up is Doug Hackman.
Yes, the drainage on lot 4 that comes from Centennial Park and Woodgate. Tonight I just went out there and looked at it. I live on Centennial at the far corner. And it was still running at 6 o'clock from the rains today. But it looks like the low-lying area where the water drains through is run right through the middle of that house planned for lot 4. And there doesn't look a whole lot of distance between the houses. How are you going to deal with the drainage from the Woodgate and Centennial Park?
Yeah, we will. We'll see if the petitioner can address that here in a little bit.
Yeah, because currently it looks like the corner of the house meets up to the fence line, which is, just and it butts up against the 20 feet that you guys used, the 20-foot wide strip of land you guys used to annex Centennial Park. But so it looks like it's about 20 feet, and that's right there where the house is going to going to butt up against the setback.
Okay. Well, we can't have a lot of going back and forth, but does the petitioner have an answer for that? I'm not quite sure I really understand it.
Yeah, so the house that's shown on those are generic house sizes. And as we have developed the grading plan for this, it diverts the water around those houses. So it's not going to be going directly into somebody's backyard. So that will happen as the development is under construction to divert all the water around the homes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Kevin, is there anybody else out there?
Yes, next is, and I apologize, I don't know the first name. It's L.I. Summer.
Hi, that's me, Linda Summers. I live on Ashbrook. I spoke earlier. What I'd like to say, first of all, about the access to 46, the driveway, the left turn only, I think it, or no, right turn only. I'm with Pat on that one. If no one's looking and I'm going to turn left, I'm going to turn left because you've got to go all the way through Ashbrook to Deer Park, down Deer Park, and then you have to wait in a line of traffic to get out onto 46. So I just don't see that happening. And speaking of the line of traffic on Deer Park, this is all coming from numerous cars on Woodgate behind us. And when I go, I'm by there frequently because I work at IU, I go back and forth, and I go by Centennial, and there are very few cars on Centennial, very few. But when I go on Deer Park to get to work in the morning by 8 o'clock and 5 p.m., it can be lined up for several cars. I'd say I've seen 8 cars as a backup there. And I find that to be quite a problem. Woodgate has an access on Lost Man Lane. They have an access on Union Valley, and they have an access onto 46. That is reasonable for me, I think. But now with this new addition, all they have is this one ridiculous right-hand turn only thing and going to Ashbrook. That's it. The houses right now in the area that I've lived there, and I've lived there for 27 years, are very nice single homes. I hate to see, we have no sidewalks, and I hate to see all of the traffic that 168 apartments, 38 patio homes, and 14 single homes, let alone the 3 commercial properties, which we have no idea how many houses that's going to bring. I mean, cars that's going to bring. There's no way that there's not going to be more accidents. There's children right now that walk up and down Ashbrook and walk their dogs and have balls and skateboards in the street. And this is a disaster that's waiting to happen. And I hope that you can all do something about it. So we're looking to you to find the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
All right, next up is Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for listening today and having this meeting. I'm disappointed that that this committee doesn't have more power to influence and help develop this community safely. I would like to first applaud Sandra Hash for her foresight in the past for trying to make this not C3. Because my house, I believe, is also zoned C3. I live directly to the east of this property, right on 46. I have the 4 acres that are touching it, single family home. And no matter what, this development is going to cause additional difficulties and safety issues for me getting out of my drive. But I'm actually in favor of the idea that this is a right-hand exit only. For my safety, because the shopping center across the way has a lot of traffic that comes in and out, and having exit out of this being left hand is dangerous. But I really would encourage that this body look at public safety. As Linda already said, Ashbrook Lane is not prepared for this type of traffic. And Deer Park at intersection with 46 is incredibly dangerous. If you look at the ARIES reporting data from the police, and DOT keeps these records, the state keeps these records, most of the accidents in Ellettsville occur right there, right in that stretch between the shopping plaza and Deer Park. And this is going to exacerbate it, and people are going to get killed. The last thing I want to mention is I'm concerned about the drainage on this property. And there is an existing body of water on this property, and it is just absent from these plans. And I'm concerned about the ecological impact of moving essentially a body of water and moving this retention pond to and dividing into 2 retention ponds or 2 drainage areas or whatever the developer has planned.
All right, thank you. We actually are not to the point of studying the drainage yet. That's something that will have to be approved by the engineers. We're really not, that's not what this development plan approval actually does. So, but hopefully we will get to that when the time comes. Kevin?
Well, real quick, I think the drainage has been covered already by the engineers for the overall subdivision. It wouldn't be covered for the individual.
I just meant when it starts getting developed is when.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Next we have where do I go? Brian Thomas.
Thanks. And Brian Thomas, live with my family on North Rendell Lane, so not too far from Ron Rosemeyer. Thanks to the council for looking at this and all the great questions. My primary concern overall is safety, and I'll have some concerns with the apartments when that comes up later. But for now, it really is the traffic. It's difficult to get out on 46 from Deer Park, and that's just going to get worse as we try to exit Rendell Lane and Raintree. So, I think the right turn makes sense in some aspects, but I also agree that I see people every day turn off of CVS, make the left turn when no one's looking, and it can cause some issues. So, I think my other big concern about the right turn only, I feel like we've gotten 2 different answers on if that's really been approved by NDOT. I think the driveway is approved because it's there, is what I'm hearing. But I have a question. Has NDOT actually approved the exit there and this plan, or is that still just a verbal commitment? Because I work for a state institution, and until it's in writing, I don't believe it. So just my comments for now. Like I said, I'll have more when the apartment comes up.
I can address that real quick on NDOT. I did speak with one of their engineers last week, and they are going to approve that as shown and have put that in writing.
All right, Kevin, anybody else?
I don't see anyone on with the Zoom hand raised. See Don Calvert waving his hand.
Yes, I'd like to speak as a citizen and not as a member of the Plan Commission.
Well, you need to go outside and come back in.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. May I speak now at this point?
Sure.
Okay, my wife and I have lived on Springwood Court for 45 years. We've seen a lot of changes in this area. When we moved into this area, there were 5 homes here in phase 1. There's phase 2, phase 3. Let's see, Dillman Farms, Westgate, all this sort of thing. It's really grown. And with it has the problems. And I drove from Smith Pike down to Union Valley, and I counted 14, went back and again counted 18 different areas in and out. I looked at gas stations, Starbucks, ATI, apartments, Arby's, Forest Park entrance, Perfect Auto, Mad for Your Dog, all those sort of things. And it's a real problem here. Forest Park is all set. When you go down to Forest Park and try and go on there, you're looking at people across from you that don't use signals. A lot of times you don't know whether they're going to turn to the right, going to turn to the left, or come straight ahead and come up into our addition. So you have to gamble with that. The lane that we get into to try to merge is not a merge lane. It's a turn lane. And I'm interested to see what the police would say if there's an accident in there and I'm trying to merge and I'm in a turn lane going the wrong direction. It's not a safe situation there. People pull up beside us on the right-hand side. You can't see to the west. And they block your view there. And I'm still a little bit leery of how things are done. I'm still, and some of you can remember, years ago when they 4-laned that, we were promised a 3-lane entrance and exit down there, and I'm still waiting on that. And I don't think that we'll ever get it. There should have been a way in from the east, there should have been a way in from the west, and a way out. And we still do not have that. People coming toward our addition, moving from east to west, they signal with their signals a right-hand turn, and they have no intention of turning into our addition. They're going down to the gas station. So you have to sit there and wait. You can't get out because you're afraid if you pull out, somebody's there. My wife, sitting still in traffic, has been hit there once already. In periods of darkness, fog, snow, heavy rain, the lines, they're not even visible. You can't even see the lines down there. 46 is one of the heaviest traveled roads in the state. And we're considering adding more vehicles, hundreds more vehicles to that intersection. And it's an uncontrolled intersection. And my concern also is, what is all this construction traffic going to do to the roads in our addition? By the time you pull in low boys, you pull in heavy equipment, you pull in concrete trucks, it's going to tear it to pieces. And it's a real problem here that needs to be addressed. And lastly, I've been over on Centennial with 2 different members of the Plan Commission at different times, and I don't remember seeing a stub out into this addition. I'm not going to say that there isn't one, but I drove down through there and I don't remember seeing a quote stub out. There's a lamp there.
Dave, his time's up.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you.
Yeah, there is no stub there. It's just it's a couple of lines on a map and a ditch.
That's right.
So, Kevin, if we got anybody else?
Yes, I see Renee Kaiser.
Renee, we can't hear you. We can see that you're talking, but there's no audio coming.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear that, but there's a really big echo.
Oh, well, can I speak now? I'm Thomas Spoonamore. For some reason I couldn't talk, so I'm on the phone now.
Do you still have your computer on?
Sir, if you've got another computer in the room, shut it off. That's what the feedback is coming from.
Okay, I will shut it off. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, what I like to say is I built my house in 1994. I live on Ashbrook Lane. When they started building Woodgate back there, they put a retention pond behind my house, and they rerouted the water. And when it rains a lot, it floods my backyard. And also the retention pond overflowed, and it ran down between my neighbor's house and flooded their crawl space, which they had a furnace down there. And I've also had a wreck on 46 in Deer Park Drive. It is very dangerous down there. The road across the street is not symmetric with everything else like it is on Centennial. And I don't understand why they bring all this traffic down Ashbrook and create a dangerous situation, more dangerous than what it is right now. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. So, Kevin, do we still have the other person trying to get on?
Now I can't tell because her video is off. Let me look around, see if there's any others that are wishing
Do you think we're going to be able to go back to regular meetings by our next meeting?
Yes. I was going to talk about that
Okay. Well,
at
how
the
will
end, but yeah, we will be. At this time, I do not see anyone indicating they would like to speak, but there's a lot of videos off. So if anyone else has anything, please speak up now.
Could I make one other comment?
I don't know. You already got one.
Turning right or west onto 46 is only going to complicate things for us trying to get out of Spring Valley because it's going to head all that traffic down to us. They'll be looking for some place to turn around. I'm afraid it'll be coming in up to our area to turn around and come back out.
All right.
I do see the video back up for Renee Kaiser. Does not look like their audio is working yet.
Can I make another comment? A brief one.
Make it quick.
All right. Tom, who was just speaking on the phone, is my neighbor. And he reminded me of I moved in about the same time that he did in 1994. And he reminded me of when Woodgate went in, that I too had problems with flooding, even though they had these retention ponds. Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't have anything to do with Woodgate. That was the County Planning Commission.
I would like to say one thing.
And you are?
I'm Megan Pease with the household on 4111 Ashbrook Lane in Spring Valley.
Okay.
And so my parents have actually lived here since the early 90s. So 25 to 27 years. And when they did the extension on Woodgate, it made major traffic impact of getting in and out. In fact, not only was it the cars speeding through the neighborhood, but also they ended up drunk driving. They ran over our mailbox. They hit our dog. And we have great concerns if we're going to add however many new living spaces and cutting it through our drive, that we're going to have already more problems and they're going to be unpoliced and not addressed. So we have grave concerns because my parents now have a grandchild. We have a new puppy. There's cats and dogs that have gotten hit through this neighborhood because of Woodgate. And if we're going to extend it, it's just, we have great concerns about it.
All right, thank you. Okay. So as I understand it, we pretty much have to approve this particular part of the petition by right. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. We do a preliminary plat approval for 20 lots, Ellis Ridge subdivision located at 2888 West State Road 46. PC 2101. 02, sorry.
I think that's 3888.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 2. Sorry, Terry.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have a second for that motion? Okay,
Second.
I'll second. Okay, go ahead. Dan seconded it. Denise?
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Sandra
Abstain.
Hash,
I think you got talked over there, Denise. Who were you calling on that time?
I started to say Don. I realized he abstained, so then I said Sandra Hash.
Sandy, are
Is
you
she
still there?
on?
I'm here. It's just so hard to say. I'm sorry, but I know we have to do it. I just don't want to. So I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Pamela Samples,
No.
Pat Wesolowski.
I'm going to say yes, but I think we have to do something with this exit on 46 before we approve anything else. Something's got to be done there, people. Like the neighbor said there, you know, people are going to get hurt, they're going to get killed, and we're going to sit back and say, well, we had nothing to do about it. And I just can't believe that a planning commission cannot have some type of authority about traffic. And,
Well, I thought we had that authority the last time we got sued and found out we didn't.
that's what I'm saying. I just don't understand it. It's below my pay grade. I'll say yes, but for the back part of it, but not when it comes for the front part, they better have some decent plans there.
Motion carried.
Okay, so we go on to the next portion, which is a petition for a zoning map amendment to rezone a portion of 3888 West State Road 46 from commercial 3 to a planned unit development. Case number PC 21-05.
All right, there we go. Forgot how to share my screen for a minute. Case 2105. This is the request for a PUD zoning over the central portion of the property. It would cover 2 of the lots created by the Ellis Ridge subdivision and just over 6 acres in size. This is currently zone C3 general commercial and was annexed in 2006. I think we've already gone over that. Considerations for a zoning change. Things to look at are the comp plan, current conditions and character of current structures and uses in each district, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction, and responsible development and growth. This is site plan. It's turned on its side, but the left side over here would be going out to 46. It would have 3 buildings on each side, and I believe the triangular piece is a large common area. Community park, excuse me. Well, let me rephrase that. I had that backwards. 46 is actually on the right-hand side. And it's shown better on here. Here's that park. Triangular piece. Couple renderings of what the apartments would look like. And that is all I have to say about this. I will turn this over to either Tyler Ridge or Katie Stein to talk more about the project.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Planning Commission members, thank you for hearing us. My name's Lynn Coyne. I'm an attorney with Bunger and Robertson, and I represent the Ridge Group. And our plan is I will try to give the context of this. Tyler Ridge will describe the project, and Katie Stein will talk about some of the adjustments in the site plan that we've made over the course of the several months that we've been at this. And I appreciate your time and your patience on this. I know it's running late. But I'd like to try to understand and explain where we are given you just approved the subdivision. So as you know, there are 2 lots in the subdivision that are currently zoned C3, and that is what we are talking about. So I think it's important to understand that these lots remain zoned C3. And C3, as Kevin mentioned earlier, is the highest commercial classification that Ellettsville has at the moment. So what that leads to is what could be done by right. That is, what could someone go in and draw a permit for tomorrow on these lots? And that is, there's a broad range of things that Kevin mentioned. And among those and I believe Kevin confirm if this is correct, is apartments over retail or commercial. Is that correct, Kevin?
That is correct. That is permitted by right.
That is a by right. So someone could go in on either one of these lots, both of these lots, as we plan to. We don't plan to do that, excuse me. And they could build apartments over retail. That's the way it is. That's a done deal. I don't know if the Plan Commission would see that. They might see development plan approval or something. I don't know that process, but it wouldn't be to say yes or no, because that's in place under the zoning code. This is very difficult to understand for some that, but that is where, so we are proposing a planned unit development that essentially downzones these parcels from what would be permitted by the existing code. And we'll get into detail about that. But we're asking for less parking, lower height, and a couple other things I'll get to. But among those is less traffic. So traffic is a great concern, but please understand that it is zone C3. So we asked the traffic engineer to take a look at this and said, okay, what could someone wanting to build on these two lots by right ask Ellettsville for a permit for, just to draw a building permit? And scaling it down to fit and for roads and drainage and all that, determined that you could put 100 apartments over 35,000 square feet of retail tomorrow or the next day. Okay, that's what's permitted. Okay, then, so you build an apartment building and you put an apartment over the commercial, and they could be 2, 3, 4 bedroom, whatever they are, whatever works. And then you have the commercial, and both of those generate traffic. And we asked the traffic engineer, what does that generate compared to what we're proposing? So let me run through that a little bit for you. So under the permitted use, they go by morning peak hour trips to evening. And so in the morning, with apartments over commercial, you'd have 203 morning trips. With the project we're proposing, you would have 57. That's a 71% reduction in those trips in the morning. In the evening, with apartments over commercial, you would have 256 evening peak trips. With the project we're proposing, there would be 73. That's, again, a 71% reduction. With now overall, on the trips for a 24-hour day, weekdays, if you build what's permitted, that is apartments over commercial, it would generate 3,101 trips during those weekday 24-hour periods. With the project we're proposing, it would generate 914. Again, a 70% reduction in traffic. So that's why we're looking at reducing the parking, reducing the height. We have an expanded buffer after meeting with the neighbors. Katie Stein will talk about that a little bit. We have a park area that you've seen. This is, in fact, a down zone request from what is permitted today. Now, one choice we had, we talked a lot with Kevin about doing waivers and special exceptions and multiple things like that. And we preferred to come to you with a holistic view, which is a planned unit development. And that's how this petition came to be. So in that context, that's where we'd like you to consider this PUD and what it brings to this site. So let me digress. I hadn't planned on talking about this, but you're going to talk about Centennial. Our lots don't hook up to Centennial. We have no access to Centennial. The plat doesn't require that access. It's got the two entrances. So in terms of the code, it's either apartments over commercial or something else, the things Kevin outlined, a Walmart or a convenience store, or whatever's permitted, the massive range of permitted uses. What we're trying to do is provide housing for people, workforce housing. We have experience in that, and Tyler will talk about that in a moment, on a good site, and reduce the impact of what the current zoning permits. So with that context, I'd like to introduce and turn you over to Tyler Rich, who wants to build these apartments. Tyler?
Thanks, Lynn. Appreciate that. Appreciate the introduction. Good evening. As Lynn said, thanks for sticking around. I know it's getting late. I know everybody has families, so we appreciate the consideration. My name is Tyler Ridge. I represent TRG Development LLC, as well as a couple other partners that are helping us out with this project. Our intention is to develop a Class A conventional multifamily product here. It will consist of 168 units, 48 of those being studios or efficiency units, 72 being one bedrooms, and another 48 being two bedrooms. I know parking came up on a previous petition, so I'll just go ahead and let you guys know. We have 168 units, or with that, we have 252 parking spots currently planned. We have found through experience and through historical data, if you don't have enough parking spots, your tenants won't renew their leases. So we really want people to stay here and this to be their home and create a nice homey feeling for those who either can't afford a home or don't want to take care of a home or stuff of that nature. So how we came up with that is one parking spot per studio. Our studios run roughly 400 square feet, 1.5 parking spot per one bedroom, because you will have some one bedrooms that have, as someone mentioned earlier, a wife and a husband that each have a vehicle, or you'll have some one bedrooms where there's, single young professionals that are just going to and from work, and then 2 spots per 2 bedroom. And with our unit blend, that is 252 parking spots for 168 units. Class A, I would like to touch a little bit on what Class A is, and I just pulled it from the internet just so I can help kind of paint a picture. The class system as it relates to multifamily real estate development was created as a way of conveying the different characteristics of the actual real estate it refers to. The classes are based on a combination of physical, geographical, and demographic characteristics. Class A multifamily properties are considered one of the safest investments from a risk perspective for both the investor, and then this is what I found interesting, in the surrounding properties. There's multiple statistics that prove a Class A development, if chosen correctly, will not fail, and you won't be looking at empty buildings or buildings that are run down. They're well taken care of. They're usually located in a primary market where individuals want to live and where the underlying economics are strong. So I just kind of breaking down the difference between Class A, B, and C. A Class B is somewhere between A and C, and a Class C property is usually aged somewhere 20 plus years, and I'm sure we've all seen one, and B is somewhere in between the two. Another factor that separates Class A is their condition. Many Class A buildings are newly constructed and feature high-end finishes, amenities, etc. So I'd like to go in detail about our intent or our planned finishes for the project. So we will be doing stone countertops, quartz, and or granite, depending on where price points are. We all know what construction materials are doing, but they will be stone countertops. That will be both in the kitchen and the bathroom. Undermount sinks, stainless steel, tile backsplashes in kitchens, LED fixtures throughout the entire project, as well as Energy Star appliances, luxury vinyl plank. We usually do a 12 mil in the units themselves, and then a 20 mil in the corridor, which makes them extremely durable. And that unit turns when a tenant leaves the unit, and we have a new tenant going in, we can pop up the planks and repair the one so it's like new. Each unit is planned to have either a patio on the ground level or a balcony. Listening earlier, our patios range anywhere from 5 by 10 to 5 by 12, which is 50 to 60 square foot. Central heating and cooling, of course, stainless steel appliances throughout, laundry centers, and there will be a front load washer and dryer in all 2-bedroom units. We do upgraded plumbing fixtures, access control, and CCTV. We want our tenants to feel safe. There's cameras on the interior, the exterior. You have to have a key fob to enter the buildings, which is assigned once you get through the lease process. Valet trash service. So that's basically where you set your trash in one common area or outside your door, and we have a company go around and collect the trash and clean the floors. There will be a community park, as Kevin mentioned, in that small triangle just on the east side of the site. community park with dog run and grill stations, which would be open to the public. As Katie mentioned earlier, on Kenny or the Blackwell petition, there are sidewalks throughout the site. There will be a clubhouse, which is shown on Kevin's rendering right now. In that clubhouse will be a property management office for on-site property management to walk the property daily and make sure everything's in order. A coffee bar, a fitness center, an indoor-outdoor lounge, which is what you kind of see with the overhang there, and the accordion doors that open up for everybody. And there'll be a TV and a game center in there. There'll also be a conference room. As we know, a lot of people are working from home right now. So with capabilities for big screens and stuff of that nature for Zoom calls. As far as technical components, we've had a call, a neighborhood call, and we listened. So I'd like for Katie to kind of touch on the changes we made and with regards to buffering zones and setbacks and everything of that nature. So with pleasure, I'd like to reintroduce you to Katie Stein.
Thank you, Tyler. Yes, I am going to, for the record, Katie Stein, Smith Design Group, also representing as civil engineer and land surveyors for the Ridge Group, as I was for the petition that was heard before this. So yes, like Tyler mentioned, we had a neighborhood meeting, and after that we had made adjustments to our PUD outline plan. And so I will touch on that as I go through kind of the deviations that we are asking for with this PUD in comparison to what is in the town code. So I'll start off by just going through the setbacks. We originally had our standard setbacks. They match the town of Ellettsville. And I will say in the town of Ellettsville, it requires that your rear setback doubles when you are adjacent to a different zone. And I do not believe we had that in the original PUD. So the neighbors were concerned with that. So we are proposing to double the rear yard setback when they are adjacent to the single family residences that are nearby, or excuse me, that share a common property line or different zone. And then in addition, we have also set that to the side the side setback to also double that. I believe there was one instance that a side setback applied. So we just want to make sure that the rear and the side setbacks that are adjacent to different zone and the single family lots, those building setbacks have been doubled. Another aspect to the code allows up to a 45-foot height for a building. We are proposing a 40-foot tall building height maximum for this. And I believe the proposed buildings are 37. Tyler can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 37 feet are what the buildings are proposed to be. Tyler touched on parking, but I do want to mention the code requires that we do 2 spaces per unit. And Tyler walked through the parking ratios that we are proposing. And like Tyler mentioned, 252 is what would be required if this PUD is approved for the amount of units that they are proposing. But I will mention our site plan shows 293. So we actually have 41 additional spaces on our site plan than what would be required if this PUD is approved. So the other thing we wanted to go through when the neighborhood meeting was up, we had a conceptual plan and the buffer yards came up. So we had some trees just kind of showing that there was a buffer yard. So we went through and basically made that plan more realistic of what that buffer yard would be. So the town does require that we have a buffer yard. However, there are no standards in the town code as to what that buffer yard needs to be. So the standards come from they're similar to what the Cedar Bluff PUD was approved at for their multifamily area that is adjacent to single family residential. So we have a mix of evergreen and deciduous trees, spaced 20 feet along all of the property lines that are shared with single family lots. And then as another part of that too, is that the PUD will also require that preservation of existing trees will extend to the greatest extent possible. So we will try to save the trees again, to the greatest extent possible. And then those trees that are saved will not be counted towards the buffer yard trees. So the buffer yard trees will be new trees, new plantings that will be in there. The other thing I want to mention too is that with this PUD, there is quite an extensive landscape plan for the interior aspect of this project. The standards that have been set are similar to what you would find in the city of Bloomington's requirements. And those are interior plantings. We have parking lot perimeter plantings. We have foundation perimeter plantings, and it's all a mix of deciduous evergreen shrubs and tall and medium canopy trees. And we didn't go out for a full phone landscape plan at this stage. And what Kevin has, it's just the interior parking hasn't, or excuse me, landscape has not been fully planned out. So that is what has changed with the site plan since this was originally submitted to the planning department. So, and that wraps up my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. With that, a couple more remarks, and then we'll answer whatever questions you may have. If you read the staff report, this project does meet the 5 criteria. We believe the downzoning and the way we've described it is the best solution for the dilemma that the town finds itself with this C3 zone parcel in the middle of wherever it's located there. We understand the position that puts you in, but it is what it is. We also understand from the neighbor's point of view, this field's been vacant for quite a long time. And now all of a sudden it goes on the market, it gets purchased, and the C3 zoning becomes a reality. So we're doing the best we can to modify our project, shrink it down, downzone it, and meet the market and give a livable project for the town of Ellettsville to meet its need for workforce housing. So with that, thank you for your time. I know it's a late night, but we'll do our best to answer your questions. You're muted.
David, I believe you're muted.
Does anyone from the Planning Commission have questions for the petitioner or for Kevin? Okay, is everybody else muted too?
Excuse me, this is Pat. Will there ever be commercial on there? On that property?
No. I don't want to confuse you with my talk about commercial. What I was talking about was what C3 permits. Okay, today without anything is apartments over commercial. We are doing away. There will be no commercial. This will be only apartments. Commercial is a tremendous traffic generator, and that is not part of this project. I just was trying to distinguish our project from what is permitted today.
So back to the NDOT permit. The NDOT permit is just for a right-hand turn. So I'm a little confused. I mean, this is obviously a lot of traffic that's going to be really difficult on that right-hand turn intersection. Is there more to come? I just don't see how this can work. Can we make it contingent that a light goes in at Deer Park, or do we have any? I mean, if we approve the PUD, then when it comes back and we say, well, there's less parking, then they'll come back and say, yeah, well, you approved that with the PUD. So it just gets so complicated in my mind, and I don't understand why we're going with the PUD if we don't have the traffic issue ironed out.
Well, I'll try to explain that to you, Ms. Hash. The way it is zoned today, right now, the way that land sits there, it is zoned C3. And C3 in the planning code has a big, long list of uses. And I'm not going to go over them all.
No, I got your presentation. You did a very good job of presenting the information and what we could get with our commercial 3 compared to this lovely downsized PUD. I understand that.
Okay, okay.
I'm just extremely concerned. We've heard from the neighbors, and I do think Darla had said that traffic concerns could be something that we, as a plan commission, could address. So I appreciate that you are less congested than a full-blown commercial facility, but it still is a lot of problems for Highway 46 and for this neighborhood who may get, you know, overcome with these vehicles. So my question is, does the NDOT permit as it stands now limit the number of cars coming in and out, or can you put all of this in there and just make it a right-hand turn out and it'll all be fine?
Well,
yes, to answer your question, NDOT's report took our apartments sized as you see into consideration when limiting the access on 46.
And Ms. Hash, I absolutely understand what you're saying. But as it stands today, with the right in, right out, in a weekday, you know, the numbers I said would generate over 3,000 24-hour weekday trips. With ours, there's a 70% reduction in that. Now, if someone comes in besides us and buys these two lots and wants to put apartments over retail or commercial or one of those many uses, I'll defer to Darla, but I do not think at that point you can say to them, well, we won't let you use it for what it's zoned unless you do something about the traffic. I'll defer to Darla on that one. But that's the difference. You see, if someone came in to buy a lot and said, I'm going to build whatever I'm allowed, that's different than what we're saying. We're already reducing the parking. So I'll stop on that, and I'm sorry.
Kevin, this is Pat. The right in and right out. The right in is the people coming home from work. They're coming from the east. The right out is when they go to work. Where are they going to turn around at to go east? Has that been figured out? These 900 cars that you're going to add on, if it's 900 or 9,000, whatever it is, where are these people going to turn around to go to Bloomington? Can somebody explain that to me?
I don't have an answer for that.
I don't either. But we're going to put roughly 900 and some cars. Your traffic count, wasn't it 900, Lynn?
For the week.
Those are, remember, those are 24-hour weekday charges.
Right,
So in the
I
morning,
understand that. But where are these people going to turn around at? To go to Bloomington, to go to work at IU, to go to work at Cook, to go to work at wherever.
Yeah. They are doing it today.
Not out of there, they're not.
One of our dilemmas we face here is that State Road 46, it is by its name, a state road. And that is under the control of NDOT. And they do all this analysis in whatever, when they talk about allowing us a right in, right out, or anybody access to State Road 46. That's within their control. And one would like to think they consider these issues, but it's the NDOT and the state road that answers that question.
And we've actually told Kevin we would be happy to contribute towards paying for a light, but again, it's none of our decision.
It's NDOT.
Kevin may know, but I believe it's NDOT, and I believe a study was done, and I don't think Deer Park warrants a traffic light at this time. Or was a study done, Kevin? I can't remember how that ended up happening.
I am not aware that another study was done regarding it putting a traffic light at Deer Park. I know it's been discussed, but I don't know that there was another study done, or if there was, I'm not aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did anybody from the council have any more questions for Kevin or the petitioner? Hearing none, do we want to open it up for public comment again, keeping in mind that we already heard about all the traffic. And have that in our minds. My phone just.
Hello, this is Tom Spoonamore. I'd like to say something.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Are we open for this?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm on the phone. I had to get offline because my speaker wasn't working correctly. All I have to say is everything out here, it seems like it's all about the dollar and not the safety of the people in the neighborhood, and they really don't care about the neighborhood. We know what's going to happen if you guys do this, especially those at Ashbrook up. There is way too much traffic. 46, I lived here when there's 2 lanes here, and now there's 3 lanes, and there is a lot of traffic going down this highway. And I know you heard a lot about traffic, but again, I think it's about the dollar, and it's not about the safety of the people or the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, anybody else?
All right, got a few hands raised. First on my list is Brian Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, and appreciate the continued discussion. Like you mentioned, I live on Rendell Lane and definitely have concerns. This apartment building will be right in my backyard, 3 stories looking in, and in my lifetime, the trees probably won't be big enough to ever have privacy. So immediately that goes to one of the tenants that you all were looking at and I think charged with protecting, and that's property values. And I know I would not buy a home with a 3-story apartment building behind me, and I have to think that's going to affect our entire neighborhood. The other safety and twofold traffic, I'll hit that in a second, but public safety, we live in a quiet neighborhood. We moved to Ellettsville 15 years ago or more. And really, when you have a neighborhood around you, you have an idea who lives there. You may not be best friends or know them personally, but you can look online, see if they have criminal activity, if there's issues there, something I check about quarterly as new folks move in and out of the streets. But then also an apartment building with this many units, you have no idea who's moving in and out. There's no way to look at that as a public citizen. And finally, the traffic study again is my big concern in terms of pulling in and out of my neighborhood. You're right. I think Pat said, where's everyone turning around? Probably my street and in my cul-de-sac where there's 8 kids outside playing all day, every day in summer. So, I know there's traffic studies and I could pay to have a study done that says every car there will be purple, but it won't be. 57 trips during the day, there's probably that many out of my neighborhood with about 20 houses. If you have, a couple hundred parking spots, you're telling me, 3/4 of those cars aren't going to move in the morning or evening. That's not viable. So appreciate everyone taking a look at this. And I encourage you to vote no if you can.
I can speak on public safety a little bit. Appreciate the comments. We do background checks are mandatory for our complexes. So do want to let you know that you will not have anybody with offenses moving in next to you. Same, could be said for the C3 zoning, anyone shopping or anyone of that nature. I'd feel a little safer knowing someone's had a background check than someone who goes to, a store to pick up whatever they're picking up or goes to get their oil changed or any of the other permitted.
And you're going to be owner for life?
Yes, this is a project or a property we intend to.
You're not selling like the Cedar Bluff did?
We can't, can't have questions going back and forth. You have to address your comments to us.
I'm sorry, would you like me to speak, David?
Sure, go ahead.
We do not intend to sell. I'm not familiar with the Cedar Bluff situation, but these are apartments we intend to hold for our portfolio. We believe in the area. We're dropping or spending very large investment in the area, almost $24 million investment overall. So it's an area we believe in, an area we want to be a part of, a community we want to be a part of. We do care about you guys. I hope that was somewhat evident in the modifications we've made to the site plans by doubling setbacks and adding extensive amount of buffering and trees and stuff of that nature. So just want to clarify that also.
Okay, thank you.
All
Kevin,
right. Sorry, got ahead of you. Next up is Nick.
Thank you for calling on me again. So I look at the criteria for zoning change consideration, and I disagree with the staff's recommendations on this. Maybe I don't have the right or to say that, but some of these, like for instance, the most desirable use of the property, Ellettsville is a single family area. That is why we moved out of Bloomington. So it is not the best use. I mean, everybody on this side, on the north side, between Deer Park and Centennial, it is single family homes. And so this does not match the character of the property, and it doesn't match the character of the neighborhood. And these apartments are also expensive. They are not cheap, and they do not, as it said in the meeting packet, the median income for a household in Ellettsville is $53,000. These apartments are $1,000 a month. That's where they start out at. And so this becomes a very expensive that doesn't really serve the community well. And we know that apartments, the renters are not building any equity, so it is not uplifting the community in any way. So I would also say that, as Brian mentioned, these apartments are in our backyards, and that affects our property value, and that is also a part of this conservation of property values is a consideration. So these apartments are going to tower over us. The grade of the land is way above mine. So like the basement of this is the first floor is going to be above my house based on the grade of the land. And it's going to be similar for other houses in the area. So it might only be 36 or 40 foot tall, but it's going to appear much larger. And 36 and 40 foot tall is still a very tall building compared to our homes. And then finally, of course, the safety and the traffic, okay? Traffic does impact property values. There are lots of studies out there that says that they do. And I cited those in previous letters that I've written to the Planning Council and to Kevin. And I just wanted to bring that up. It's like, I know that community members have written to the council and to Kevin. I didn't know when that was going to be brought up, if that was how that was shared with with this council during this time.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And I can help clarify maybe a couple of things Nick stated. So per our third-party market study, which is a group called Mitchell Market Analysts, it's roughly a 70-page report that takes everything into consideration of if you should invest in an area. The market, our target market to be served, including is housing for 1 to 4 persons, so the studios to a 2-bedroom. The income levels for that would be $25,337 to $94,500, which is approximately 51% of the area. That's just true data in our target market. That statistic comes from it's based on 35% of a person's income versus what they pay towards a mortgage or towards rent. And those are just true facts, true data. Would be happy to share the report with you guys. Like I said, it's roughly 70 pages long and very comprehensive. We did not zone this property C3. We're just trying to see where we can fit into the puzzle, and we do want to be a positive impact. I guess our largest benefit to the community would be, and someone mentioned money earlier, but we will be paying income taxes. We're not asking for any sort of incentive or benefit to build here. We believe in the area, and I think that I'm not sure if you guys are truly interested in the numbers, but on average, we are paying close to almost $400,000 a year in income taxes is what we're projecting. So that should benefit the area in one way or the other. So do want to state that. And if you can find any sort of data or study that shows multifamily Class A decreases property values, I would like to see it, because I would be worried about the opposite if I were in your shoes. It does not decrease property value. And if you find an article, I'd love to chat with you one-on-one, Nick.
All right, thank you. Kevin, we got anybody else?
All right. Yes. I think it is Linda Summer.
Yes, hi. My question is perhaps for the council, the planning committee here. Is it once a land is zoned C3, which to me, this seems to be the problem. I don't have any problem with the apartments. They look beautiful. I'm sure they're very nice and all that. And I have no problem with anybody making any money. But how do we change that? I mean, once a property is zoned, is that forever? Or is there a way that a number of people can get a petition together and change that?
Kevin, would you like to tackle that?
It would pretty much have to be up to the owner of the property to request it be changed. The only other instance I could think of, if it's something that comes from the board directly, which I don't know that we've done that in the past, and I would prefer that we don't do that.
And I don't know that we could do that in the middle of a petition, could we? I mean, I don't think we can change the zoning of a piece of property in the middle of a petition.
You could, but it'd probably open us up to more lawsuits.
So it's once a C3, always a C3.
No, not necessarily. It really just depends if whoever owns a particular property wants to rezone their property to someone else, which is actually what they're trying to do in this case. But I don't see a way that someone outside of the property owner could petition to have that changed.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just point out that I made reference to earlier, but we were in a very similar situation on the west side of Ellettsville in regards to an apartment complex that someone was wanting to build 3 stories right next to single family residential. And we actually denied that petition and we were sued and ordered to approve it. So we really don't have the last say in anything. Kevin, anybody else?
Have one more hand up. Max Irwin.
Sorry, I was trying to lower my hand. Well, I would like to say thank you to the commission members for your time. Thank you to the other community members who have spoken. Dr. Coyne, I know you're a member of Bloomington, and I thank you for your contributions to Bloomington over the years. And while I appreciate your discussion that, yes, this is not as big of an impact as potentially 3 stories over commercial, I also believe it, as so many others have said, it does have an impact. I live on North Rendell Lane, and my backyard is right up against the property line. And I appreciate that maybe there's not anything we can do, but I did want to go on record as also saying that I do support the single family houses on the north part of that plot. And I know that's separate, I think, from what the Ridge Group is doing. But I think, at least for me, I was a student at IU not too many years ago, and I moved out to Ellettsville to be away from Bloomington and from all the students. And I didn't do enough research, and my address is still a Bloomington address technically. But I had hoped to be further away from students and further away from apartments. And I live in a $200,000 home, and my mortgage is less than $1,000 a month. And I know that's it's a 3-bedroom home comparable to what I would have paid for rent in a lot of townhouses townhouses in Bloomington as a student. So I do appreciate what you've done in terms of increasing the setbacks, but I hope that the impact on the rest of us homeowners is minimal. And thank you all again.
And I would just point out things can always change, but my experience has been we really don't have that many IU students living in apartments all the way out here. That can always change. But, Kevin, do we have anybody else?
Looking now and not seeing any more hands.
Okay, so what would the board, the commission like to do here?
Could I respond to the one just in general?
Sure.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but in terms of what's next to you, if you're a neighbor, it's what can be built in a C3. And you may have no voice in that. What we're saying is we recognize that and we're trying to minimize that. I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you.
David, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but the PUD is treated as a rezone, and as such, the Plan Commission will be making a recommendation to the town council.
Okay.
Kevin, do we have to make a decision tonight?
I
Can the town council
that
be
you have to.
petitioned?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Can the town council be petitioned?
Who's that?
Dave, who's talking?
That was my question.
I started, but somebody else come in. My question was, do we have to make a decision tonight on this?
Unless Darla knows of something otherwise, I don't think you do. I think you can table it.
You don't have to decide tonight. You can table it if you want to.
I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but I think we have to have I mean, we don't have to have a reason, but we need a reason. I mean, we need to know what we're going to look at differently or what we're going to find out.
Well, I asked the question, Dave, not to interrupt you, but I asked the question of where are these vehicles going that are going to turn right, go west, where they're going to turn around at, that don't seem to know, anybody knows. I would like to know where we turn around at to go east.
Well, I don't
think you can get a definitive answer to that. It's going to depend on where people feel like going, whether they feel like going into Smith Pike Plaza and turning around, or going down to Union Valley, or just running over the divider and going left. People are going to do different things. And I don't think tabling this, we're going to get a better answer.
Mr. Ridge had a response, but he's having trouble getting in on his audio. And he texted me and asked if we could hold for a minute to see if he can get in. Can you hear us, Mr. Ridge? But you can't talk. So he had some technical problem. I'll ask him to text me his comment and I'll relay it. I'd carry on. If I get a text, I'll raise my hand.
Well, to get back to Pat's question, I think you can table it. I don't know that you have to have a particular reason. I think it's sufficient to say, A, it's late, everybody's tired, and B, you want to take it under advisement and think about it. I think that's okay. I do think if you are going to table it, you should also decide whether or not you're going to hear new evidence at the next hearing. So if it's just a matter of you all want to, roll it around in your brains and think about it and make a decision next month, that's fine. If there's something in particular that you want to know or that you want the petitioner to bring back to you to make a decision easier, I think in fairness to the petitioner, you should state what that is so that they can answer your question if that's an issue. If you're tabling it because you want more information, that's fine. But I think it's perfectly acceptable to table it just to do what judges do and take it under advisement and just think about it.
Well, one thing I would like to know that was kind of not really answered because nobody really knows for sure, but I would like to know what the actual status of that piece of land that comes from Centennial Drive is. If maybe we could try to find that by the next meeting, if we're going to table it. I know we're not going to resolve legal issues in that period of time, but I would like to know what the actual status of that property is. I can't really tell from looking at the GIS system.
Well, I can try to find out about that. I don't know that I will be able to, but I'll give it a crack at it.
I should have tabled both issues then, because that's not even part of this.
No, it's Mr. Brown is correct. If you do find out one thing or another about it, it's not part of this subdivision and it's not part of this project.
I just jumped the gun on approving the other one.
I wasn't suggesting that we table it for that reason. I was just saying, if we are going to table it, then I would like to try to find that out in the meantime.
Okay, never mind.
Another thing that concerns me too, and I do appreciate all the time you guys put in. You definitely explained a lot to everyone and the difference between the PUD and the town code. And I do understand the fact that if it was the town code, you would have to drop the number of units because of the parking. My thing is, what are we doing about a traffic light? I mean, I heard earlier that it was denied because of the addition there, but are you still looking into a traffic light at that intersection there? Did that make sense? I'm sorry. Kind of added a lot of there.
I think I caught the tail end of that. If you guys can hear me, my phone it just kind of dropped the call, so I apologize for. I know it's late, and I apologize for wasting any time. But can you repeat that? I just heard the last part about a traffic light. So if you can repeat that, then I can maybe better answer your question.
I was concerned. Are you guys still actively pursuing NDOT about a traffic light being put at that intersection, or where does that stand? I kind of lost it earlier with everything going on.
So based on the call tonight, I think the only thing we can actively do is try to figure out Centennial. There's a lot involved with going after a traffic light. Number one being, we would have to do a new traffic study, and I'm not sure what all that entails. And then if NDOT decides they don't want a light, then we're back to this point. And then also the two roads don't align from one another. Deer Park and the inlet into the retail spot do not align, and they would have to do something pretty significant there to make those roads line up for a light to work. The ride-in, ride-out to us, really, as we looked at future developments and what's going on, it works for us because Spencer, we've been told and we hear that Spencer, an employer, needs roughly 1,500 apartments in houses. And that would be obviously the opposite direction of Bloomington. They would be going through Ellettsville. So when we hear about future growth, and that's a lot what we look at in the market studies and why Starbucks is in town, and we hear about these things. So the limited access works for us. And to answer, I can't remember the names of everyone, but people would have to legally go through Ashbrook. They wouldn't be able to go in and go out left, and we can't make people obey the law, obviously, but what we can do is put the largest, I call it Hershey kiss, and tall wall in possible to help detour people. So, you know, people are speeding, we can't help that either. I hope I answered your question. I did only catch the tail end, but yeah, the traffic light would take the town, the master developer, us, NDOT, and I'm not sure what all that entails or what that scope of work is. So no one is actively looking at a light, but we would be happy with the town's attorney to start diving into Centennial a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of explains it. And I really like what Darla kind of mentioned. It's been a long night. We've heard a lot. I'm really in favor of tabling this myself, just to kind of go over everything again. Let me ask you about time constraints. Where are you guys on that?
I mean, we obviously have a lot of time invested in this, and we want to do what's right for you guys. So I don't want to put a true timetable on it. I just don't want to miss our opportunity. We want, if you guys would like to table and feel it's best for everybody, we're agreeable. We just want to know, define what we need to do, define our parameters to come in next time and us not repeat this, just for everybody's sake. You know, I got 2 little ones at home. I know you guys all have kids and families, so define what you want us to do. And if that's dive into Centennial and have more information, detailed information next time, then that's exactly what we'll do. I don't think the traffic light, I don't know. I don't know that scope of work or who would do what or who would pay for what, or if it's $1 million and, you know, we can't support all the costs, obviously. So, yeah, just define what you need us to do for the tabling, and we would be agreeable if you guys feel like it's best for the community to have more information.
And just personally myself, everything you said about Centennial sounds very logical, because I think I asked that question earlier on. So just myself, I would like to table this until next meeting so we can have you guys look into that, and we could also have our attorney, you know, conversate back and forth between you and get with us and let us know what's going on. But that's just my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I would entertain a motion to adjourn or table this till next meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Before we vote, can we amend that motion to have them dig into Centennial with our attorney?
He's already said he would do that.
Yeah, I don't think that needs to be part of the motion, Dan.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, what about a stoplight at Deer Park there? Do we have to put that in, Darla, if we wanted that?
What's your request? You just want someone to check with NDOT about the feasibility of a light being put in there at Deer Park?
Yes.
I don't think that needs to be part of the motion to table. But if that's something
Well,
that
it gives the petitioner something that he was asking, like Dan said about Centennial Drive, and if he could look into the stoplight situation there too.
Just let me add that looking at that stoplight situation is a very expensive, lengthy process. It's not something that we can call someone and they're going to give us an answer. The NDOT's going to require a very detailed traffic study, which is quite expensive. You have to hire specialized engineers, and we have no control over how long that takes. We have been at this process for months, and who's going to pay for it? I mean, you may find out, I doubt you will, that it would be warranted, which is an NDOT term. but it raises a whole group of issues. I don't know that we can do that, but if you tell us to do it, we'll do our best.
We have more control over Centennial, being that it's on a piece of property that we can work with Kenny on, that we have close connection, can call him and get a hold of him. You call NDOT, it could be weeks before you hear back, months. It cannot be, we could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and they tell us no light. We have more control over our fate with Centennial, in my opinion, and Lynn can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's exactly right. And Kevin can probably tell you what it's like.
I think you did a good job of describing that. It is not a fun process.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Denise, would you do roll call, please?
Sorry. David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert.
Abstain.
I'm sorry. Sandra Hash. Yes. Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
So, Kevin, do you have a planning update for us? Or would you rather say
Just-
that till another time?
No, I was going to go on for about a half hour yet. I mean, why stop now? We're on a roll.
You do, you'll be on your own.
I'm
That's all right.
I'm getting ready to make the motion to adjourn.
Two quick things. One, I just want to thank Darla, who has worked tirelessly with us all day long. So, and also for getting part of Centennial Drive straightened out.
You're
So,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you for thanking me.
And the other thing is, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this tonight, but we really need to look into, as a town, what types of housing we want other than single family, because we have no problem building single family homes. They're going like crazy. They're also super expensive. I know someone mentioned the median household income's $53,000 a year, which could probably pay for, I don't know, about 2 or 3 of the houses even on the market right now. So there's a legitimate problem with housing affordability, and we need to start looking at whether it's apartments, duplexes, quadplexes, townhomes, row homes, something else. We need housing diversity in this town. And that's my piece for tonight. That's all I got. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin,
Yes.
were you gonna bring up about us meeting in person the next time?
Oh, yes. We are going to be meeting in person from now on. I'm fairly certain the governor's orders are ending this month, which would require us to go back. I was planning on having a discussion about going back in July anyway, but I think we're going to be forced to. So we will be meeting in person in July. I think the meeting's on the 8th.
All right, good. So did someone want to make that a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
Sandra Hash. Yes. Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, we're done. See you next time.
Yep. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.